Hi, this is Derek Regensberger, and welcome to another episode of the Clarinet Connection, your source for gear and product reviews and practice and performance tips for the clarinet. In today's episode, I'm going to be looking at some vintage mouthpieces that have been returned from master mouthpiece maker Brad Behn. And you might be wondering why I'm wearing this zoot suit. No, I'm not playing in a swing band tonight, although that would be a lot of fun. Instead, I've decided to dress in period costume so that we can get more of a flavor of these mouthpieces. First up is a Chedeville, which is quite newer than the remainder of the mouthpieces I'll be trialing out. This particular one, Brad thinks was made in the early 1980s. It's a Chedeville 7. And as you may recall from an earlier video, the mouthpiece played rather reserved. It had a nice sound to it, but really didn't have much of a volume to it. And when Brad did his evaluation of these mouthpieces, he thought that it would probably be the least of the four that he refinished. But he underestimated his powers, as you'll see. This mouthpiece turned out quite nicely. So let's have a listen. Quite nice player. I think it would fit in quite nicely in any modern orchestra or concert band. And really, the mouthpiece, has great articulation to it now, whereas before it was a little bit stuffy. And it really does have a nice big sound to it. So I think this mouthpiece turned out really well and exceeded Brad's expectations. All right, next up we have a Bettoney oval logo. And Bettoneys were made in the 40s and 50s. They typically were shipped with the company's clarinets. And while the clarinets never had much of a following, these old mouthpieces are really something special because they're made on Chedeville blanks. This mouthpiece, however, this particular one was in really bad shape when I sent it to Brad. It had several large pits in the table, it had a warp table. It really needed a lot of love and attention. So let's see what it sounds like. I think this mouthpiece turned out quite well. It's pretty free blowing. It's got a nice overall chord to the sound. You can really hear that It holds its tone quality all the way up into the altissimo range, which is great. It, perhaps isn't quite as clean an articulator, but really subtle difference. This mouthpiece is really, I think, a good specimen and has turned into something that's quite playable. So kudos to Brad on fixing this kind of old beaten up mouthpiece. All right, next up is a 1950s Chicago Kaspar. This is a Kaspar with the logo up above the ligature lines, and so it's in the middle of the back face. And I'll show you close-ups of these mouthpieces once I'm done. But this mouthpiece, when I tried it out, as you may remember from my earlier video, it had a nice, really deep, concentrated sound to it, but it was really hard to articulate. It had so much back pressure built up in the mouthpiece that on a modern instrument, it was just really tough to play. So what Brad did was close down the face. This particular one says 1.03, and it has a facing curve length of 36. So really what he's tried to do is close it down, make it easier to articulate. So let's see what it sounds like. Wow, you can just hear the power come out of this mouthpiece. This is, when I played it, I thought there was something there. It was just hard to get through because of all the back pressure. But with the new facing and a little cleanup to the baffle, this mouthpiece has really turned into something quite nice. Brad wasn't sure if closing the face down on the Kaspar would work, but it really worked in this case. This mouthpiece really just has a huge sound to it, and we'll test it out on the A clarinet here in a minute to see what kind of darkness it has, but I think really quite a great player. All right, last up in the mouthpieces I sent out for refacing is the oldest of the mouthpieces. This is an original Chicago Kaspar. It has the logo at the bottom below the ligature line, so it was probably made in the 1940s. When I tried this out, initially it had a beautiful deep sound to it. It had a big sound. The only thing, the articulation wasn't quite clean enough for my taste, so I asked him to clean that up a little bit. He's maintained some of the closed facing. This particular one has a 1 with a 35 facing curve to it, so a really short curve. And let's see what it sounds like. again, a nice big sound, perhaps not quite as big as that middle logo Kaspar, but really a nice darkness and richness to the sound. Just a beautiful player. All right, let's hear what the Kaspars sound like with a different reed. Before I was playing everything with a Van Doren Blue Box 3.5 strength reed, so I'm going to switch it up to a Woodstone 3. This one has a little more core to the sound, a little more darkness to it, so let's hear what it sounds like. So it gives it a really nice, lush sound quality. So this is the middle logo Kaspar, the newer of the two. So let's see what the older one sounds like. So again, a lovely dark sound, not quite as powerful as that middle logo, but still a really fine performer. Let's see what this Selmer Table mouthpiece sounds like. This is a Selmer Table HS Star. It's probably from the 1950s. Again, a really big sound to it. This one's a little unrefined though. It hasn't been refinished yet. So here's what an original facing would sound like. See, it sounds unrefined. It's a little hard to get notes out cleanly, so it definitely is in need of a refacing at least to kind of bring it up to modern standards. And by comparison, let's see what a modern mouthpiece with this same reed sounds like. All right, this is my Clark Phobes Europa in a CF Plus facing, and so let's hear it by comparison. All right, let's take a look at these mouthpieces more close up. The first is the Chicago Kaspar, the oldest of the pair. And you can see that the label is on the bottom
It says Frank Kaspar Company, Chicago, Illinois, and there's a little oval in there. Of course, Frank L. moved to Ann Arbor in the 50s, and that produced this particular vintage of Kaspar mouthpiece. This was made by the Younger, and we can see that it says Frank Kaspar Company, Chicago, Illinois. And this one was made after Frank L. had moved to Ann Arbor. You can tell that because the logo has been put in the middle of the ligature lines now. So instead of at the bottom, like this original Kaspar design, you can see that the logo is below the ligature lines, whereas this one is in the middle. And so this one was made, given the oval logo, by the Younger Kaspar in the mid-1950s. Here's a Bettoney mouthpiece, and you can see clearly the H. Bettoney logo, CB Company, Boston, USA, on the bottom of the mouthpiece. And again, we can tell that this is made from a Chedeville blank. And you can see there is one little nick in the table still remaining, but given how badly this mouthpiece was chewed up, this has been restored quite remarkably. So you can see that it has a wide mouth at the table, probably pretty similar to the Chicago, and you can see how really similar they do look. Perhaps just a little wider rail on the Chicago than the Bettoney, but very similar style mouthpiece. When we look at the next mouthpiece, this particular one is a Frank Kaspar Cicero. So this is after the Younger Kaspar had moved to Cicero, Illinois. So again, a 3-line on the bottom, 1-line blank on top. Again, a wide mouth on the table, but again, a mouthpiece in really good shape. This particular one was restored by Ramon Wadkowski. All right, here's a look at the newer Chedeville, and you can see the Chedeville logo, Paris there, and it has the Charles Chedeville CC on it. And again, this one just a little narrower table on the front, the 2 ligature lines, but you can see the difference in the ligature lines from an original Chedeville versus this one from the 80s. You can see how much more sharply defined the ligature guides are on the older mouthpiece than they are on the newer one. And so that's something that Brad Behn pointed out on his review of it. And then here is the Selmer mouthpiece. So you can see the Selmer logo, and then why they're called table mouthpieces is, of course, on the table is clearly marked table and then HS star. So again, this one is comparable really to the original Chicago. So if we look at this one, you can see a little narrower table on the Selmer for sure, and pretty similar shape overall. But that gives you an idea, a close-up of what these mouthpieces might look like. Let's take a look at the internals. So you can see with this original Chicago, it's got fairly, slightly sloped internals to it. And you can see just a little bit of that parenthetical shape. If we look at the slightly newer Chicago, this one, you can definitely see on the internals there that parenthetical or elliptical type shape.